All right. So, in this webinar series, kickstarting it by inviting our president, Mr. Sunil Singhal, who is a batch of 1971 alumnus, a very popular person, and over to him now.
Thanks, Samir, and welcome to all to this monthly webinar conducted by the Delhi chapter of the IIT Kanpur Alumni Association. As you all know, our topic today is hacks for mental health, which is extremely relevant, especially in these COVID-induced conditions. Our distinguished panelists are Dr. Nand Kumar, Head of the Department of Psychiatry at All India Institute of Medical Sciences and specializing in neurobiology and neuropsychiatry. We have Dr. Rima Sehgal, psychotherapist based in Canada, who counsels on depression, anxiety, workplace stress, etc. Ms. Diksha Avasthi, an alum of IIT Kanpur and founder of Diksha Life, where she explores the limitless power of the mind and body. Our moderators this evening are Samir Nigam, 96 batch of IIT Kanpur. He is the CEO of StratBeans, which provides training and sales enabling products to various organizations, large and small. And Raghav Shah, my fellow batchmate from the batch of 1971 IIT Kanpur, who is a well-known expert on IPR protection. So Samir and Raghav, over to you guys to carry this forward. Thank you, and welcome again to all our participants and audience and all those who have joined us in this webinar.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much indeed. Now, let's start this discussion. Let me first address the audience. So thanks a lot for joining in. I understand that you have a lot of questions also, which we are keeping towards the end. So feel free to type your questions on the chat or in the question and answer box. We will address them towards the end. Now, the way this is going to flow today is this way. I'll start the discussion with Ms. Rima first, and then we'll go to Dr. Nand Kumar and finally to Ms. Diksha. And during that, you'll realize that we have got three important aspects covered for mental health today. So guys, as you can see, mental health plays a vital role in balancing success or sometimes lack of it, but only a few among us have a systematic training on the subject of mental health. The people who are our panelists today, they come from these three frameworks with which you could address mental health. One is metaphysics, of course, where you've got chakra system, you understand your mind and body that way. This is an ancient science. And then, of course, we have got an expert in psychology itself. Psychology is something which can tell you how to counsel yourself or how to think about it or how to even do certain interventions which are going to help you. And of course, a psychiatrist, Dr. Nand Kumar, is also on the panel. So which means that, if you really need medical interventions finally to control something, you've got that kind of thought also today. So let me start with Ms. Rima Sehgal. Ms. Rima, I understand that getting up early in morning is a great idea for mental health, but today we woke you up because of the webinar. I hope you had your first morning tea or coffee. Did you?
Absolutely. Tea, coffee, bed tea, then breakfast, everything. I'm a early riser, so it was easy for me. Thank you.
That's lovely, and you cooperated. So I understand that you are a registered physiotherapist in Ontario, Canada, and you're also a registered psychologist in India, and you have got a lot of experience, more than 27 years of experience. And if I started talking about, the way you are, recipient of Fulbright Award or counselings that you do, it will take the entire day. So I'm going to keep it short. I'll just quickly ask you that, since you are a psychologist, tell me what areas are covered by psychologists and when we should approach them.
That's really a good question. Before that, I'll just make a correction, Samir. I'm not physiotherapist, I'm psychotherapist. So in Canada, there are three different titles: psychiatrist, psychologist, and psychotherapist. So, and in India, we have either psychologist or psychiatrist, main mental health professionals. Of course, social workers also do mental health counseling. So, and counselors are also there. But that's it. So I'm not physiotherapist, psychotherapist to begin with. And the important question is that when do we go? No, what did you say? When do we go to a psychologist?
Okay, I was trying to understand that, how can we figure out whether we need help? So therefore, what
Absolutely.
areas are covered by psychologists, and when they help us, and when should we approach them? What's the right time? Is there a way to figure out that now is the time that I should talk to you
Very
and
good
seek some help?
question. Let me try to explain it with the example of our physical health. Like, suppose I get a fever today. Okay, so what would I do? I'll try to use Tylenol here in Canada or Crocin here in India, and or if I want to avoid medicine, I just take rest. कुछ ज़्यादा तेज गर्म है तो पट्टी रख लिया या कुछ 1 or 2 days I'll try to just take care of myself, rest a little more and so. But agar second day bhi theek nahi hua, third day also I don't get well, what would I do? I'll go to the doctor, right? So when it is physical illness, it is very easy for all of us to understand when to go to a doctor, right? If so, when it comes to mental health, it is such an invisible thing. Like when I am crossing the threshold, I don't recognize because it is not spoken up, discussed, understood by us as a culture. As a culture also, we recognize that ये mental health कुछ नहीं होता, ये mind कुछ नहीं होता, depression क्या होता है, we are unable to see it as something very important for our well-being. So what happens that physical health we recognize and we go to the physician, and there's no shame, no stigma, no denial about it. But for mental health, we need to see that if I'm, say, upset, or we were just talking before the program about stress. So stress, as Dr. Nand was talking about, that it is helpful in achieving our goals because a bit of stress is required, which is eustress. But when it becomes heavy on my mind, say I'm conflicted about my work, I'm not happy about the way my colleagues are behaving with me, so I'm uncomfortable, then it goes on, and in a few weeks I feel that I don't want to go to office. Then it goes on and I recognize that Monday's causing me anxiety, I don't want to get up on Monday or something. So I'm just giving a brief example how something which is bothering me becomes a problem for me. And that is the time to recognize that in spite of talking to my family about it, talking to my friends, taking help of, say, HR or whoever, nothing is helping me really. Similarly, if I'm a student, I'm studying for exam, that's fine. But just the thought of exam being there is triggering anxiety, triggering extreme discomfort emotionally, behaviorally, psychologically, and even socially. There are many students probably who are watching would recognize that answering in class is a challenge for them. They know the answer, but just the thought of speaking out in front of the class, even someone as brilliant as an IITian, is a challenge. So those things which make it difficult for us to enjoy our tasks, those behaviors, feelings, experiences, which makes it difficult for us to function the way we want to express our abilities, our strengths, our feelings normally. These are the signs that probably now I need professional help to understand my mental processes and work on them.
I guess that's a great answer really, because when you say stress is good in some sense, I remember there was a very good speaker, Kelly McGonigal, and she spoke on TED, and she said, make stress your friend, and that's what you're saying too. So sometimes that is correct. I mean, many times it's that That's correct. That people don't take help when it is needed. And you told me about a child where the parent brought her when she had become really very, very violent. But that's the situation. Now, I'm going to ask you something totally flipped here. Many times when we are feeling okay, we are feeling fine, then also there is a need that we can go to psychologists and get some advice. So I'm going to take that advice now. So I'm going to ask you how to take care of our mental well-being in general with the help of any psychological tools that you could give us, or some suggestions you could give us, something as simple as a diet or sleep or whatever. What's your expert opinion on that if I'm feeling okay? And then what can you suggest?
Fantastic. If you're feeling okay, then enjoy being okay. Right? उसके बाद भी कुछ करने, ये दिल मांगे more is that madness, we are dealing with. So dil has to be satisfied and happy and feel fulfilled. So the various ways, I can go on, and all of us educated people have read so many articles on the value of their acceptance, the value of gratitude. However, I'll just roughly divide it to a bit of self-care, and the self-care package in terms of making it easy is your physical health, your mental health, your social health, and I would also like to add the spiritual part to it. So that would make me feel fulfilled in whatever my role is, whether I'm a homemaker or I'm a professor or I am a student, whatever my role is. So physical health, we all know the basics. That is so important. And if there are youth watching, and even nowadays people at my age have started doing this, sleep is something that's becoming a challenge. So sleep, diet, exercise, and hygiene. These 4 things, if we are able to balance and manage, I think your physical health part is taken care of. And I want others who have questions about these, Dr. Nankish Kumar is there, and any of the panelists, I think, would be able to answer. And physical is one. The other is psychological part. Psychological part is when I am happy with myself. What is my experience of myself? If I am happy, if Rima is happy with herself, she will not, think twice to express her feelings. If I know I'm a student and I'm learning and I'm enjoying the class or not enjoying the class, but I'm listening in the class and I have a question and I'm confident that I'm a student, my role, my abilities, I'm okay with. Chances are when I have a question, I'll raise my hand and ask the question, right? So, and if it's the other way, I'm not happy being what I am, there are chances, like for this program or any other program, it would have given me anxiety if I'm not happy being Rima, right? Because I would have then pray and thought, log mere bare mein kya sochenge, mera kaisa impression jayega, itni tension ho jati if I'm not happy with myself. But if I'm happy with myself, mujhe nahi farak padta na कि किसी का impression मेरे बारे में कैसा होगा. Similarly, a student, if he's happy being himself as a student, average, below average, above average, doesn't matter. His own self-image about how he is, then he would ask the question. It's a very simple example, silly example, but abhi dimag mein yahi aa raha hai. So what is psychological health? Be accepting about my own strengths, be able to express my feelings, be able to communicate well, and maintain relationships. The other part is the social, where I have a group of people I can relate to, whether it's family, friends. I'm comfortable in sharing my feelings. I'm comfortable in being assertive, where whatever I don't like, I have the ability to say that. That's my social skills and social adjustment, right? If there are friends, there are people who are bullying me and I'm not able to speak up, then that just shows that this part of self-care is lacking. So that's social part. And then there's spiritual part. Spiritual self-care would be not necessarily religious, but connecting to yourself, connecting to nature, connecting to your creative pursuits, connecting to your fulfilling moments, the joys, whatever. Each one of us has the experience of joy in a unique way, in a different way. So these aspects, I think together, if we are able to take care of, we can ensure that yes, I'm enjoying my life the way I'm supposed to, the way life, wherever life has placed me, whichever, not only geographically part of the world, professionally, career wise, age wise, relationship wise, I'm able to accept and enjoy that.
Thanks a lot. Really, I mean, a great discussion is building up for the audience, and audience, as you understand, life is a great miracle worth enjoying, and Ms. Rima has given us a lot of good points. I will request the audience that she had a message early on when we were talking to her, inviting her to the panel. She said, "Never give up on a person with mental illness," and she's ready to support us going forward also. So this doesn't end here today. You can reach out to us, if you have someone you want to talk about, if it is about you that you want to talk about. She has shared her contacts and she's professionally available, as well as she has got a special reason to attend to you when you come from this reference that you attended this webinar. So that option is open to you. Reach out to us and we'll make that connection for you. Now that's a great segue for me to move on and quickly hand over the baton to my senior alumnus, Mr. Raghav Saha. Now, talking about Mr. Saha, he is an accomplished leader, very large, successful career that I can keep talking about. His journey started in year 71. That's when he graduated from IIT Kanpur, and he is right now in the good company of his batchmates today on the panel also. So, sir, now can you please guide us forward and take the next panel with you?
Thank you, Samir. Dr. Nandkumar, welcome. And
Thank you, sir.
You are one of the leading mental health experts in the country with so many PhDs and also a large number of research papers. So I'd like to take on from what Rima said about that you must consult somebody. My first question would be, does a mental disorder progress if left unattended? And what are the precautions immediately one should be taking care of? The second thing is, are there medicines which can be used for checking this disorder?
Right. Thank you, sir. Can I start with actually what mental health is? What Ms. Rima has mentioned, mental health is day-to-day phenomena. It's our feeling, thought process, emotion, that what we emote, and how we interact with the society. So it's a day-to-day activity, day-to-day phenomena. We cannot segregate it with the physical health. Now, it's very difficult to say the disorder part, because in psychiatry, what happens in mental health psychiatry, we have certain illness that we categorize, and that is based on the symptoms. Say, for example, the most common is depression. If somebody is feeling low, there is sustained sadness of mood with loss of interest in usual activities, with decreased self-esteem, decreased confidence, low in energy level, altered sleep, altered appetite. And if these symptoms last for 2 weeks, and that is affecting our functioning. Say, for example, we are not going to the hospital to treat the patient as a doctor. You are not going to the class to take a lecture. You are not going to your office, to take the office work. So that means it is affecting the functioning. Then it becomes a illness, disorder. So the sadness is a day-to-day phenomena. Within the day, we feel at times sad, maybe 3-4 times or 6 times. We don't remember also. Sometimes we sad, sometimes we feel very high, good, in fact. So the mood is so dynamic. But if it is sustained, then it becomes disorder. Say, for example, the mood sadness. Same thing happens to other feeling, thought, and emotions. So certainly, sir, coming back to your first question, if we are feeling sad or if we are depressed and that is affecting our functioning in any way, so we should think on that. And we should accept that it could be a problem. It is something like having a pain in the leg or in any body part. And if there's a mild headache, you go to the work by taking a discipline, what Ms. Rima has very beautifully mentioned. But if it's getting sustained for some time, then you go to the doctor. So mental disorders, if it is disorder, if not treated, it will progress naturally, and it will lead to the complication. Complication in the sense, say for example, I give the example of depression. If you don't treat depression, or if you do not accept depression as a problem, you keep on attributing it to some other condition. Say for example, no, the household atmosphere is not good, the partner is not good, the family factors are not conducive, then you will not accept it, not treat it, and it will progress. And the complication could be either no, loss of job, or perhaps loss of social issues, and maybe at times the feeling of extreme worthlessness, extreme hopelessness, and that may lead to loss of life. So this should be recognized and it should be treated properly. And treatment is available as per the modern clean medicine. Lot of treatments are there, ranging from medicine to psychotherapy to lifestyle changes, meditation, lot of things.
Dr. Nandkumar, we know that mental health is not very well attended to in this country, and there's tremendous shortage of doctors and health workers, psychologists, and so on and so forth. Now, would you have some idea that if somebody has a problem of this kind, as Samir invited all the audience saying that if anybody has any issue, then they can approach us. Do you think there are well-established mental health rehabilitation programs in India? And which are the major ones? Where are they only available in metro cities or tier 2 cities? Would you like to give some idea to us on this?
Sir, the first one, what we have raised a very, very meaningful point. The mental health conditions or mental health issues that are, that is affecting the people, they are not usually addressed or treated. But reason is not that resources are not there. The reason is something at times something else. Say for example, we talk about treatment gap. Treatment gap in the sense that the doctors are there, but you are not aware that you should get treated. Suppose if I am having depression, I'm having low mood, but I am not aware that this is called depression. I am having panic attack, but I'm not aware that these symptoms are called panic attack and they should be treated. So this is one of the major obstacle in getting a treatment, the awareness part. Second part is the stigma. Because when we talk about mental health, it's entirely different. It's a normal health, just like a physical health. Like physically, we all are healthy, what we think, what we feel. We may have some obesity, we may have some skin issue, but we are healthy. The same thing applies to also mental health. But the stigma is that once you talk about mental health, people attribute it to the mental illness. So that simply means that the people will recollect. Mental means the people running on the road, and just a disabled person abusing. So that is the basically stigma that has been developed over the years, and various reasons are there for that. So the awareness is very, very important that this is a mental health problem. One should go to the doctor, one should go to the therapist. And one thing is more, the misperception about the medicine, that medicines are sedative, dangerous, psychotropic. Even the medical professionals, they also have this perception. I will give you one example. One of the gynecologists in our hospital institute, she was having pregnancy for last 4 months, second trimester, she was entering into the pregnancy. And she developed is very common in pregnancy to develop low mood. The depression is very, very common. So we talked about that. And one of the faculty of the gynecology, she said, no, don't take medicine. So you go back to your home, take some rest, come there, you will all right. So we again discuss. So I did not want to hurt, and insult her feeling, the senior gynecologist. I said, it's fine. You can go, you can try this. Go back to the home, come back. She came back after perhaps 10 days. but she was almost same. Then we discuss about what could be the other way around. Other way could be the meditation, the psychotherapy, CBT. But no, once you are depressed, the energy level is so low at times that you are not able to do that. No, the meditation, yoga, and for therapy also you need to have more time. No, you are feeling basically suicidal. For therapy, it may take few weeks. So we discuss and we talk about one intervention called neuromodulation, brain modulation. And with 10 session, she responded within a week and she's fine. Now she's going for the therapy. So the right kind of intervention, right kind of linking is very, very important in mental health issues for that. Coming back to the rehabilitation. Rehabilitation is required for very less number of people. I would say less than 0.5% or so. So those person who are having severe mental illness, say for example, any mental illness like chronic schizophrenia, not responding with medication. There are a lot of people with schizophrenia, they respond very well with medication and therapy. So those person who are not responding to medication, what we call resistant patient, not responding to other intervention. So they need supportive care, therapy, and they need rehabilitation. Unfortunately, we don't have that cost-effective rehab center in India. The private centers are there, but the cost is very, very high, ranging from 20,000 rupees per month for dormitory to 5 to 10 lakhs rupees, per month, something like that. So it's something like dormitory to 5-star facility. Uh, we need rehab centers, but I think we don't have that adequate rehab centers. Like in Delhi, the government rehab center is not there. It doesn't exist. 1 or 2 privates are there, and 3. All over the country, number is very, very few. In fact, in last mental health policy decision, it was planned that we should have a halfway home or some rehab center for those patients who are not responding to medication. But it could not be materialized for several reasons.
Thank you, Dr. Nandakumar. You have given very good guidance, and especially a message to people: don't neglect it and don't feel shy in reaching out to a doctor, because there may be a situation where medicines can help you to and give you a flip start. So thanks a lot, and I think we'll come back to you again. Samir, over to you for the next panelist. Or do I have time? Do I have time?
I guess we'll go to the next panelist and come back shortly, back with some more questions. So, right, now we are going to talk to Ms. Diksha Avasthi. Diksha, you are on the advisory board of so many organizations, and you come with more than 14 years of experience, which ranges across so many things like R&D, strategic planning to market research. You graduated from IIT Kanpur, and then I understand that you are very well known for growth and profitability type of consulting work that you do. You're also part of an advisory board of many organizations, and you consult and help people with mental health issues as well. So coming to you, I would start by asking you that how to catch these issues early, basically much before it becomes a disease, because I guess you have some ways, some thoughts which can be tried even when we are feeling totally healthy. We could make it a matter of life perhaps. So I wanted to hear from you on those.
Yeah, so that's a wonderful question, Samir, because see, as Dr. Nandakumar said, that we don't have much facilities and the prices are very high in the private sector. So we don't want to end up there. So rather as well, we start with our thoughts itself. When it starts surfacing, when we start feeling something about ourselves, as Dr. Rima said, when you don't feel good about yourself, that's the first catch point where you should catch yourself. That you're not feeling good. Are you really looking for validation outside? Are you really looking for people? And constantly, if you're doing it again and again, do observe the patterns. There will be a pattern. You will be having same kind of thoughts, which will lead to same kind of experience, and it will actually lead to same kind of emotions, same kind of future, I would say. So if you can catch those thoughts early, that is the trick here. So it is called metacognition, where you become aware of your thoughts. So many people tell me that I am not able to, I don't know how to catch thoughts. So many thoughts keep coming. How do I do that? So the best way to do that is, if something has happened, so you have just blasted at your colleague, or something, some event has happened which is not pleasant to you, just try to go back and sit with it. Try to analyze that situation. What happened there? Was that colleague pointing out to you, or was that colleague pointing out to your work itself? So try to distinguish between the act and the event and the person you are. First thing first, I mean, these are the simple techniques which you can use, which I suggest to my people who come to me for solutions. And another way of doing it is observing. So next time onwards, keep a note of these things. Try to start observing. We have some 70,000 thoughts a day, right? We can't observe all, but we can definitely observe those who get us charged. So what is charged here means, so when you have an emotional reaction to a situation, our brain releases some chemicals which go in our system and starts a stress response, which is a survival, basically instinct, which we have through our primitive brain. We have that survival instinct. And it leads to a fight and flight situation. So those kind of, when your body gets charged with these kind of chemicals, it starts to react. So what you have to do is, you have to calm down. You have to take charge of that situation, right? And it is not easy. I know it is not easy, as it takes practice. Just like, because we have got into an auto mode where we are programmed to react, where a 35-year-old person has 95% brain in a subconscious mode. I mean, my fellow colleagues will agree to that we actually automatically work. We don't think too much. From the morning itself, we know how our day is going to be. Everything is pre-decided, and anything in between comes, we just charge up. We just react to that situation, right? So if we can stop at that point, very good. If you can't stop at that point, at least after the event, please stop, reflect on that, try to think what has happened, what went wrong there, and can you actually start rewiring and refiring your neurons. And that will come through mindfulness practices. And there are meditation practices, as other colleagues discussed. So I would rather say that, why to wait? Why to actually leave to a situation where we have to look for a support from outside? We are actually infinite beings. We have superpowers, and my research has been around exploring those powers. I have been really intrigued by the kind of energy we hold within our body and the kind of energy our brains have. So if you can tap into that, I think not only we will solve our problems, we will solve problems of our surroundings as well. Because we can help our family, our environment, our colleagues also will be having a little less stress because of us, right? So I think these are the solutions which I offer at this point of time for our students or colleagues or office workers, or even a homemaker is having so much stress today. Even a child is having so much stress because of validation. Everything actually boils down to our self-love and validation, which we are looking from outside world. If we stop doing that, I think we will actually stop 90% of our problems right there.
That's a great thought, really. You have given us a lot of ideas here. You talk about 70,000 thoughts and metacognition. And of course, as you all would appreciate, so many people in the audience today, they are working towards like a wealth-related success, and success is difficult. And balancing passion with that is a little more tricky. Then again, sometimes people say that success does not ensure that you'll be happy as well. So happiness is a state of mind, perhaps success is too. So I would request you to give us some specifics, like, a few non-medicine ways of dealing with it. Some techniques that are your favorite, perhaps.
Yep.
If we can go and
yeah, I think that's wonderful, because see, what we can do, as we discussed, that was observation mode, where you observe things in your surroundings. That is part of mindfulness as well. When you are mindful of what you are doing in your day-to-day life. Another thing is, if you can take out time, if you are, you should meditate. And meditation is not only sitting in silence and holding a thought. Meditation is, there are 112 ways to meditate. And one should explore different kinds of meditations and find what suits best for them. So you can actually meditate while walking, while talking, while sitting, while being in silence, while being in traffic. And this is something less known to public actually. We always think that we have to really become detached from everything and then only we can actually meditate, or we should not look for monetary gains, and this having desires is not good. So if you walk on a spiritual path, you should not ask for money. No, that is not true. We should live in duality. We have been given this body for a reason, right? I mean, if coming from a spiritual perspective, I would say we are energy beings in three-dimensional body, three-dimensional construct, right? So we should enjoy both, I would say, being a materialistic without harming anybody, I would say, and at the same time being spiritual and holding those energies within you. So then there are other methods like chakra balancing. So if your chakras are not balanced, these are energy centers and they have a physiological and psychological impact on your body. And it is a proven study. I mean, there are studies which have proven this, that they are connected to your glands and your body organs. And when one chakra gets out of balance, how it affects the other chakras and how it manifests into a disease per se. So you can go for a chakra balancing or chakra meditations. You can look for mudras. So there are mudras where you hold your hand in certain ways to actually activate certain points in your nervous system, which actually calms you down, which actually brings you to present moment. Then there are other ways like chanting. Chanting is very, very scientific. Again, I will say that we have been programmed to think that it is a religious way of doing, or only sadhus or pujaris should do chanting. No, that is not true. Chanting means you are meditating on one sound or one word over and over and over again. So every word has a frequency, and that frequency actually changes the thoughts within you. It's like creating a new groove in your thought process. So you can look for that. Else, these days, affirmations have become very, so it is just like chanting itself. So affirmations like positive affirmations, people are using, in the West, people are using a lot of affirmations, but I would say whatever suits you, find out, just like you go out and play and look for hobbies, what hobby is best for you, do look out for these options. There are multiple channels, multiple ways of doing it. Do look out and find what works best for you. And it might not be, you should not also get neither influenced by others. My friend is doing yoga, so I should also do yoga. No. If you don't like it, you like Tai Chi, you go for Tai Chi. If you like chakra meditation, you go for it. I mean, find out your own way of calming down. Only the end goal is to calm yourself down, control your thoughts, bring it down. So there are brain waves as well. I mean, this is a long discussion. I can go on this, but I'll just quickly touch base on that you can actually we have different brain waves. So it's again a scientific proven data that our brain stays in delta state, beta state, alpha state, depending on how we are thinking, and we can actually control and change that in real time. And there are results to show that as well. So I would say explore this side of it. And if you definitely need any help, any suggestion, any just bouncing the idea, I'm always there to answer your questions as and when.
Okay. So this is fascinating, really. I guess audience is also enjoying it. And this is about right time to start shooting your questions. I can see a lot of questions in the question box already. Now, Diksha, आपने अभी तक बहुत interesting चीजें बताई हैं, but I'm going to ask you a hard question now.
Okay.
And you know why? Because many times when I talk about metaphysics, and there are many audience who prompted me to do this with you. They said, you know what? Sometimes it sounds spooky, like
Yes.
there are energies, and you're talking about this and that. Well, I guess you are an expert, so you can possibly throw some light on any scientific evidence of say energy healing, something that you just talked about.
Yes. So
And can I request you to like take just 2-3 minutes on that?
Yes, I will very quickly answer that, because length we can go forever, but if quickly I have to
Yeah,
this,
that would be lovely.
I am also a researcher, right? I mean, I'm coming from a clinical genomics background, so my brain always looks for logic, just like everybody else. And all these things, really, I have got evidences to believe in this. So scientific evidence, if I want to refer, I will refer to Dr. Joe Dispenza's work. He is a chiropractor, and his research is around neurobiology, epigenetics, and quantum physics. So it intersects all three. So one of the experiment which he did, which was very interesting, I just want to take that experiment with you, that he actually took some random people, 32 random people, and they checked the gene expression of 7,500 genes to see if in 4 days of workshop where meditation and elevated emotions are practiced, is there any changes in their gene expression. So for our audience, gene expression leads to formation of protein in a very simple way. So if the gene expression is altered, the protein is also altered. The kind of protein which is expressed is altered. So after 4 days, they saw that 8 genes got altered, which were responsible for cancer suppressor genes. They were stem cells generation genes. They were neurodegenerative C genes. They were reducing oxidative stress, these kind of genes. So altogether, 8 genes were actually upregulated. That means your body is healing itself. That means your body is actually reacting to what you are doing. Basically, it is giving you hint that if you go on, I'm going to give you good results. So it's like giving you credits of doing good work. Another experiment which he did was for 6 months. So this experiment was done for people, 32 people again he took. They were supposed to do meditation for 5 days a week. In 7 days, 5 days they were supposed to do the meditation. And they wanted to see the length of telomere. Telomere is at the end of the DNA. It's like a shoestring, and its length decides our biological age, which is different from chronological age, but biological age is defined by telomere's length. So when he conducted that study for 6 months, what they found was the telomere length was increased in 74% of their samples. And these were random samples. There was, everybody was living their normal life when this was done. 40% had significant change and 22% has remarkable change. That means their lifespan was increased by 8 to 16 days. So these are very strong evidences, I would say, and there are many more which he has and other scientists have conducted, which shows that if you do it, you get rewarded. I mean, that's enough motivation for us to actually think about it, at least give it a thought about. It's not spooky. It is now being. When Vedic sciences were telling it, we thought it's not what. But then now when science is proving it, I think at least we should be open-minded to accept these things and try it and see what happens in your life.
Okay, I guess you have really guided us in the right direction by giving those examples. We can definitely look at that and be a little more convinced about it. I think the good idea is to look at the concept of happiness itself. And you're saying that, you know what, we should be having some open mind about it
Yes.
when we are looking at it. If nothing else, it will only help us. Now, guys, back again to you, audience. International Day of Happiness 2021, as our panelists told us. And you know what's the theme this year? Theme this year is happiness for all, forever. India ranks 139 on that list, but you know the guys in Finland are pretty happy. Somehow top 3 are, I guess, Finland, Switzerland, and one more country I'm forgetting. So point is, if you're not feeling happy enough of the time, whether it's work related, whether it is health related, or it is related to relationship, that's a time when you want to underline it and reach out to people who could help you. And there are many ways, as you can see, metaphysics as well as psychiatry as well as psychology. Now let me draw attention to one person without whom we couldn't have done it well this time. That person is a co-host. She is Sneha. She's batch of 2016. She's gonna take the baton forward now, and she will pick and choose questions, and she will see what gets discussed now. Over to you, Sneha.
Thank you so much, Samir. So again, we have a lot of questions here, some in the Q&A box, some in the chat as well. So I'll try to cover as many as possible, but if again we miss out on a few questions, then please feel free to reach out to the speakers directly. So one of the first questions that we have received is, do we have any specific clinical test which we can use to diagnose the mental health issues, more so because sometimes it is difficult to convince the patient, right? So because of the stigma attached to it. So can we get some tests and via which we can perhaps get a better idea? So open to all three of the three speakers. Please feel free to answer and pitch in.
So Dr. Nand, would you like to start? You are mute.
Yes.
I can start, and then we can complement each other. So if you look at the system of diagnosis of this mental health condition, the entire globe follow the system of DSM-5, what we call by Americans, and by WHO ICD-10. So this system, these are based on the cluster of symptoms. Say, for example, this set of symptoms, if you are having, then you are having depression. If you are having this set of symptoms, then you are having anxiety, and so on. So we don't have that biological test. But now the things are changing. The last 5 years, there is one more system has come up. That is what we call RDoC, the research domain criteria by the NIMH US. And we are following that in some area, in fact. So this system is focusing more on the investigation based. That is, those investigation that we can see replicable biological markers or parameters, what we say. So in some diagnosis, say for example, if there is a altered dexamethasone suppression test, if there's an altered CRF level, it's a hormone, corticotropin-releasing hormone, then we can have some idea, or we can say that this person is having depression symptom, and this relates to this particular biological condition. So, but these are not routinely followed. But to rule out certain condition, we do some investigation. Say, for example, thyroid. Say, for example, diabetes mellitus. Say, for example, other neuronal issues. We do investigation, ranging from the blood investigation to the CT or MRI. But of course, we cannot pinpoint with one test that, okay, this could be the cause. But we can say that this could be the probable underlying cause.
In addition, I would like to add there are many psychological assessments, psychological tests available, and they range from diagnostic to just understanding your personality, intelligence, interest, variety of tests, batteries, and tools. However, they're to be used by a trained person. They're not for laymen to use. And I think that's true for even physical illness is diagnosed by an expert. So similarly, mental health or mental illness also needs intervention or understanding by an expert. So it's not a good idea as it is to just Google, look around and say that, oh, I'm depressed or oh, I'm anxious. So it's a good idea to certainly consult a professional to understand better.
Thank you so much. I think that makes a lot of sense. Second question we have regarding, the audience wants to know that where should they register themselves to practice psychology in India? So probably, Dr. Reema, I think you can answer that question.
So in India, it's getting more and more structured, not yet what we really want, but we're not yet there, but we are certainly moving. One organization is Rehabilitation Council of India, and that's where the psychologists get registered. So whether you're a clinical psychologist or rehabilitation psychologist or any other, so that's one place at present. And recently we heard that the government is also planning to register counselors. So it's on paper, it's about to happen soon. So at present, this is one place, Rehabilitation Council of India.
Got it. And another question that we have here is, how do we, so if we know, let's say, if we know someone who is suffering from the bipolar disorder, then how do you help them out, right? So, I mean, I'm aware that X person I know is kind of dealing with that issue. Then how can I help him or her?
Can I answer this? Okay. I think this question is being asked by a person who wants to help someone who is bipolar. That's right?
Yes.
Okay. I think if the bipolar means no, there is a mood swing. At one end, you have a very highly elated mood, very high confidence, lack of sleep, full of energy, but we're not able to focus. Another end is very severe depression, low mood, low confidence, not able to sleep, lot of lethargy, fatigue. So the bipolar person, if they're having the high phase or what we call manic phase, they will not listen to you. So because they have so much of high confidence, so that may not be right time to take him to the hospital unless they are risk to themselves. Then you can take them to the hospital forcibly perhaps. But the best time to help, if the episodes are manageable, manic episode, it's a depressive phase. Because when the person is depressed, then there's a lot of fatigue, lot of low energy, low confidence, not able to sleep. Then you can say the person, no, the lot of weakness is there, fatigue is there, let us go to the hospital. Then the doctor takes over, and then they can make the person aware that this is happening because of this reason, and you can be aware of this issue because of the mood fluctuation, and we can help you through a lot of techniques, ranging from meditation to the psychotherapy to a lot of people say alternative, but it is now mainstream, like alternative medicine, yoga, meditation, lot of things. But it has to be administered very carefully in terms of meditation, because a lot of meditation technique, they can lead to hyperdopaminergic state, and that may lead to precipitation of manic episode. I think Ms. Diksha knows that better, but we see it clinically, so we read it and we try to correlate that.
I would like to add one thing here, Sneha. When somebody is asking about how to take care of bipolar, whether it's bipolar or any other diagnosis, look, we were talking about, Dr. Nandkumar explained that how there's lack of awareness, how there's stigma. So we were talking about somebody who's a patient or who's got mental illness or who's suffering, that they need to reach out. But because even the person who's suffering is not aware, so is the family who's not aware. So when we have a mentally, someone with mental illness in our family, the huge toll it takes on the family. So the caregiver support is so important. Hence, even more important to have conversations like we are having today, thanks to the alumni, to think about it, that we need to be aware that this is a genuine illness. For instance, heavens forbid, if I have a patient with diabetes in my family, or some other serious, say something major, like very, what is it, like a disease, handicapping disease, something like that. So my entire life will turn topsy-turvy because I have to be caretaker of that person. Similarly, mental illness can take a huge toll on the family. There needs to be support groups. There needs to be right guidance. There needs to be a lot of awareness. So whoever's asking that question, please educate yourself. Please talk to clinicians. Please join these, wherever these groups are, not much in India, but still there are private practitioners who are running those groups for, support groups for caregivers. So that's really a very important thing to be, and hence even more need for such platforms and such discussions and conversations, so that we are not only able to take care of ourselves, but people around us.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Next question we have for you, Ms. Diksha. So one of the audience members says, if we are what we eat and brain plasticity is real, then are there any specific food items that we should definitely avoid, right? So just from a healthy mind and body perspective, would you recommend anything specifically from that aspect?
That's a wonderful question. Actually, we all know that we are what we eat, right? So I will just say one thumb rule: eat as live food as possible. So it has to have that prana in it, right? So try to avoid junk food, try to avoid heavy deep fried stuff. It has nothing, just, we all know, I mean, we have been taught this 100 times, different places, but we keep on going back to that habit of eating just one last time. We will have that Maggie, I will just have so all that we have to start educating ourselves. And I will say, when you start eating healthy food, which is live in its nature, like salads and all kinds of greens and fruits and all that, grains, your body starts to heal itself. And in turn, when you next time go for a burger, or again, the observation comes there, when you are eating that, when you are dragged towards one burger or one pizza slice, just observe that you are going to eat this, and this is not live, and has no nutrition. Try to tell your brain every time you eat that, try to tell yourself, and that will change your habit, and that will help you in a longer run. So I will definitely say that check for the live food, whatever you are eating, it should be live. So that's the thing from my side. And add colors, and please add colors on your food. So it has to have all rainbow colors, and that rainbow colors will help you balance your chakras as well. And it will actually have different things to offer in your body. So look for those colors as well, I would say. Thank you for that question. Actually, it will help everybody.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question we have is somewhat on these terms. So let's say one person is trying to reach out to a psychiatrist, right? So let's say X person is suffering from anxiety or depression, and they want to reach out to someone whom they can talk to, right? So then how do you know that, how do you judge whether that particular psychiatrist is the right person for you, right?
I really love this question.
Yeah.
It's a very good question. So go to a psychiatrist, talk to a psychiatrist, and you have to feel that whether he or she is able to understand you or not. If they are not able to understand, don't go for second consultation. Change the psychiatrist or psychologist. Because it is so common, no, we have been seeing this. Because like, for example, you are all from IIT alumni. You read same book, same teachers, teaches you. You eat food in the same hostel, but you all are different. So same thing happened with psychiatrists and psychologists and doctors also. They have the same degree, but the approach may differ. So unless someone's approach suits you, keep on searching for a good one.
But tell me one thing, Dr. Nandkumar, when someone is suffering from that disease, how will that person be able to take right decision for us? And because I face that problem, so that's where I'm asking you, am I cooking something or it is real? That's the difference I would like to know.
See, what I feel, we also go to the doctor. If the doctor has the time to understand you, or you talk a lot about that energy and the vibration, and Joe Dispenza also, he has a good work on the epigenetics and the frequency and vibration and reprogramming of the brain. I think it takes seconds, in fact, to get connected with the people, not more than that. And if somebody has the ability to listen to you for 1 minute or so, you can feel and connect with the people. At times you develop too much of faith on one doctor, but don't change the doctor rapidly. Like, say, for example, any medication, I'm talking about psychiatrists, any medication take about 4 to 6 weeks to work. Or some medication may work instantly, but the psychiatrist has to explain you, that I need 4 weeks, I need 2 weeks, I need 3 weeks. And if you are not getting good response, so there is no harm in changing it. But I would say it's more about the feeling and connectivity to the doctors.
Okay.
It's more spiritual than the basically,
I would like to add to this, Neha. Psychotherapy, what I do is completely, to a large extent, the success of psychotherapy is dependent on the psychotherapeutic alliance, the relationship, the bonding, the professional relationship with the therapist. So it is so important what Dr. Nandkumar said about psychiatrist. I mean, it is even more important with therapist that you click, and everybody can't click to and their personalities, like the way I talk may not feel good to someone, and the way I talk, there have been so many compliments from people that, wow, your family would be so happy to have you. I said, please don't ask them how happy. Never go to my children to ask, how's your mom? So the point is, it is absolutely important, as all of us we have gone to our family doctors, right? I mean, I know my family doctor, my physician is MBBS. He's in his late 80s, but even the best and best super specialty person, if I go to, I'll again refer back to him that this is what he has said. Is it okay? Whatever he says, I feel, well instantly. So that is important, certainly.
Thank you. Thank you so much, all of you. Since we are running short on time and there are a lot of questions pending, so again, I'll just take one last question here, which is again very interesting because, and especially in this virtual setup, right, post-corona time. So how do you practically distinguish between laziness creeping up versus professional burnout, right, versus a large mental health related issue? So, because sometimes you can just feel, okay, I'm not feeling 100%. Maybe it's just a professional burnout because I'm kind of working very late hours continuously. Or it could be that I am mentally not well, right? Or it could be just my natural laziness, right? So I think, yeah. And how do you distinguish between those? I mean, how do the symptoms differ? Or I would like to understand your takes on that.
So it's a burnout and then laziness.
Laziness, professional burnout, and maybe it's just a mental issue, right? Mental health issue that you are facing.
Very good question.
Can you start, or somebody else? You would like to start?
No. Dr. Anandkumar, you please give your perspective. It will help all of us.
Okay. My perspective is no, and perhaps know what we read and what we teach, and what I have learned also in the practice. The professional burnt out is very it's in that particular area. Suppose if you are feeling very lazy, bad in your professional setup, but out of that setup, you are fine. You're able to manage, you're able to laugh, you're able to be, interact with the people, we're enjoying the life, you're feeling happy, then it's not pervasive. So it's not pervasive, mood changes. It's a professional, burnt out. For mental health condition, if this is pervasive, like this burnt out is pervasive, you are feeling irritated, you are feeling low, you are feeling lethargic, lazy all the time, whether you are in the home or in the hospital or professional setup, then it's a pervasive in all the spheres. So this could be a mental health condition. It could be a depression or dysthymia or something like that. Now, the laziness, you are able to enjoy something, but you don't want to do something else. Like, you are watching throughout the day Netflix, you are laughing, you are enjoying, getting connected to the whole story. But you don't want to go to, have a bread or something like that out of the home. Then you are so lazy. So this is what I understand.
This is wonderful. Actually, you nailed all three in a different buckets, and we should be observant to identify, are we lazy, or it is burnout, or it is a real problem. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Okay, with that, it seems that a question and answer round has come to an end. So I'll invite Mr. Rohit Dhawan, our secretary, to address us.
Good evening, everyone. I want to thank our panelists. They've given us a really different dimension of changing our lifestyles and a whole lot of, I would say, issues which we would normally not be, most of us would really not be understanding or looking into it. We are mostly looking into tech issues and keep away from semi-medical issues and all. So it's been very great to have all three of you to give us this. And our people who have joined this webinar, I'm sure have enjoyed it, because seeing the type of questions which were raised, and I'm sure they would have all got a lot of input from all of this. And it's something which is going to really be a life-changing thing after this. And a lot of tips which has been given to lots of people. I mean, for myself, I know there are a few tips I've written down, and the best one I liked was the last one about Diksha saying that keeping all the 3 points in a different buckets, where I'm lazy, where I'm burning out, and where I'm really going crazy, and they need help in that. Thanks, everyone. And we'd look forward to many of you joining us in our subsequent webinars also. And thanks once again to everybody.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you, sir, for that. And now a quick round of credits. Now, as you understand that creating such webinars is a big effort, and of course can't be done without people who are supporting it also. So I'm going to talk about some of our guides and who have been inspiring and telling us how to do it. So Mr. S.N. Jindal is there from IIT Kanpur alumni, and Ashok Kamalji, who is a batch of 73. Mr. Rajiv Saroop, he was a former president of Shiv Nadar University and also senior corporate vice president of HCL. Mr. Anupam Saronwala, batch of 80, a great advisor, mentor, angel investor, you could go on. And then, of course, this time I would also like to talk about some people who really helped us in the actual execution. And they were working with Sneha a lot. And they are Amit Tiwari, who is co-founder at PATS Literary Solutions Limited, also founder and CEO of MKT Software. And of course, we have a very smart designer in Ruchika Rathi, who also works at MKT Software Private Limited. And then, of course, there is Prakash Rastogi, who is our treasurer at IIT Kanpur Alumni Association, CEO and founder of VirtueBox Infotech Private Limited. And then Jyoti Pandey, batch of 2020, and Anurag of 2003. Thank you very much. With that, over to Sneha to see where we go from here.
Yeah, thanks, Samir. So do we want to take more questions, or we are, I mean, I already know we are.
Yeah, I guess we can close it.
Okay. Thank you so much, all of you.
So I'll say, can all the people in the panel give us a brightest smile and switch on their video so that we can take a screenshot for posterity?
It's already switched on.
Okay. Okay. Anybody non-video right now in the panel? Please switch them on. Ashok sir, you are not on video right now. Would you mind switching it on? If you're able to see me, hear me.
Stick is there.
Oh.
Trying to
Okay.
switch on my video, but it's not coming. So
Oh,
no problem.
okay.
Take me as my mugshot.
Smiling, everybody.
Okay. Okay. So, Sneha, I understand you're taking snapshots, aren't you?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
So, with that,
Thank you for such an excellent audience. And I'm so glad a lot of questions are there, but no, we could not respond to those questions. Very nice questions, in fact. So thank you very much for the opportunity, sir.
thank you, everybody.
Sir, I'm so
Thank you for
grateful to
joining.
And my apology, though, I could not respond on time several times.
I hope it also gives you some food for thought as a practitioner. So many questions.
Okay. So with that, I take your permission to switch off the recording as well as we leave the Zoom here. Sapan, can you switch off the recording and relay on the YouTube as well? Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Bye.